Jerry Taft, Realtor and Personal Real Estate Corporation with eXp Realty and Team Taft. And we're here today to talk about agency and representation. So what is agency? It's a common law principle, and agency is when one party takes on fiduciary responsibility for acting on behalf of another party. Fiduciary means that they have loyalty, care, good faith, and that they are putting the principal or the client's interests above their own or the agent's interests. We see this in practice with lawyers and clients, with directors of companies and shareholders, to some degree with doctors and patients. But one of the most common examples, and what we're here to talk about today, is with realtors and their clients. So British Columbia's, the real estate industry is pretty heavily regulated in British Columbia. And in addition to the legislation, the actual additional regulations and interpreting the legislation is powered to an agency called British Columbia Financial Services Authority, and BCFSA. And this group has come out with some standardized forms that almost all realtors in British Columbia use. And one of the most common forms that we see to explain agency is called Your Relationship with a Real Estate Professional. And this form and some of the responsibilities. So in the case of when agent is treating someone as a client, the main responsibilities are loyalty, and they're only acting in that client's best interest. Full disclosure, they must tell everything that they know to that client. Avoid conflicts of interest, which would include not representing another party in the same transaction, and confidentiality. They must not reveal private information like motivation or highest or lowest prices. By contrast, in a non-client situation, the licensee does not owe any of these special legal responsibilities. There's no duty to loyalty, full disclosure, no duty to avoid conflicts, and no confidentiality requirement. In fact, agents must share all information that they gain from non-clients to their clients. So on the second page, there are two boxes for indicating whether the consumer is being treated as a client or a non-client. And then there's a line for the licensee to sign and date. And below that are boxes for the real estate consumer to initial, to basically say that they received this form and they are acknowledging receipt of the form. The form in and of itself is not a contract. It is more of a disclosure form to try to explain the concepts of agency and representation and what they can expect from their realtor. One of the big changes that has happened in real estate in BC since 2018 is that dual agency has been eliminated. Prior to that period in 2018, it was possible for a licensee or realtor to list a property and also represent a buyer on that transaction. That situation is still allowed in Alberta and in other parts of Canada, but it is no longer allowed in BC. There's a few loopholes or exceptions in remote environments, but for the most part, it is not allowed in BC. And so what we do see is it's pretty uncommon to have an unrepresented party. It's kind of frowned upon if you're the listing agent. It makes more sense to refer or recommend another agent and have that buyer be fully represented, because there is a lot of risks for someone to be unrepresented, and also there's not a lot of benefit. If you're unrepresented, you're not necessarily going to save anything on the price. In most cases, the full commission is still payable, so there isn't a lot of advantages to going down this unrepresented route. But two of the most common situations where you may see it would be if you're working with an agent and they're representing you as a buyer, and you go forward and work out an agreement on a for sale by owner situation. So in that case, the seller would be unrepresented and you as the buyer would be represented. Another example might be if someone is listing a commercial property and a very savvy buyer comes forward, they're getting advice from their lawyers and accountants, and they choose to make an offer directly with the listing agent. That may be another case where you could see this. But basically, the bottom line is it's important to talk about agency and to understand how this plays into real estate. One of the things that's a little bit difficult and awkward about the conversation is that there's some guidance out there saying we should be giving this form to people the second you meet them. And if people don't understand the rules of agency, we could end up in this implied agency situation. And I understand the concept, and it is important to talk about, but what's hard sometimes is you don't know when you're first meeting someone and talking to them on the phone or an email or even showing up a property, you don't know for sure whether you're going to fit together, potentially have a good working relationship. You're not sure what they're looking for, if it's going to be a conflict, if it's my listing I'm showing. So I do think it takes a little bit of time to figure out whether or not there's an agency situation here or not. And so I'm a bit reluctant to jump right into agency right away or treat someone as a non-client right away. So in my opinion, it makes a bit of sense to talk about agency, to be aware of it. And then once we've had a little bit of chance to kind of figure out the situation, then decide what route we're going to go down and if it makes sense to work together in a client relationship or not. In addition to this video, there's a full write-up where you can read a bit more about this and see the forms directly as well. Thank you very much.